Hi everyone, Jill Ansett here, independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in Australia. How are you all? Sorry it's been a few days since I've made a video, but yeah, things get busy around here. Sorry, but here it is. Now this is a card we made in one of our classes on Sunday, and it's an aperture card. So the front of the card has an aperture cut out of it, and you see the image on the inside of the card. Now they look a bit complicated to make, but they're actually quite easy. I'm going to show you how to do that today. I have pre-done some stuff because I know everybody's busy. I made this second one. I put a touch of yellow ribbon just to pick up the yellow, but you can change it up. Now you might notice that this is the Celebration paper, and Celebration ended on Wednesday. But I doubt very much if you bought some, you would have used it all by now. So this is just showing you what I did with that Celebration paper, the free gift that was with a qualifying order. But to use a current paper, just for example, here is one of the beautiful hand-penned papers, and that's a current paper at the moment, and the back of it has this beautiful what I would like to call Highland Heather pattern on it. So you can use mix or match, but I have gone ahead and made this with the retired Celebration paper. I'm sure if any of you got it, you know, you're willing to use it up. There was a lot of paper in that pack for free, so let's go ahead and start. First of all, I'll tell you what stamp sets and items I've used in the creation of this card. First of all, it is a stamp set. The main images come from Blessings of Home. I hope that's not too glary. We've used these two images here. I've used this message here, but I wanted a different message inside, and I've chosen this one here just to note, to let you know that someone thought of you today. And it's from the Encircled in Friendship stamp set. Now this is a really lovely stamp set. It's got an open design so you can colour that in as well. It also has these beautiful Mandela style dies that, they just create beautiful die cuts. So yeah, that's a set. So, but we didn't use those today, so just to confuse you, we are using the dies and the stamps from this, and I have got some stuff written down. I'll show you in the catalogue where they came from. The Blessings of Home came from the January to June mini catalogue, and it's this one here. Now you can buy it in a bundle, the dies and the stamp sets. There is a special number for the bundle. You can go to my website, which is here, to purchase any items that you see. If your order is under $250, you can use this host code. It will come up with a, do you want to use a host code, a little drop box for you to put that in. That is the current host code, and it's good till the 31st of March this year, excuse me. So we're using that stamp set. I've also used, my favourite at the moment is the Iridescent Rhinestones, and they're on page 9 of the same January to June mini catalogue. The other items have come from the annual catalogue, and I have the pages marked here. The Encircled in Friendship stamp set is here. It is on page 70. It shows you the dies, and the images actually fit into the dies. So, but they're not, I mean, you could use those for, they'd make great Christmas decorations for your tree, trust me. Our cardstock and has come from here. We've used, excuse me, we're using the watercolor pencils. Now there's two different sets because as new colours have come out, they've added to them. I have actually got both sets. They do match our cardstock and our designer series papers. So if you seriously love your colouring and you love colouring stamped images, these are a great set to get. We're also using this gorgeous grape sheer ribbon. It's really, really lovely. And we're going to use the blender pens. Now, I don't know if I've shown you how to use the blender pens. They're here on page 129. You get 3 in a packet, and they've double-ended. They have like a paintbrush end on them, and I'll show you how really good they are to have, especially if you love colouring, which I do. There's nothing better than colouring, especially as the weather's been so wet in Sydney lately. There's nothing better than to just sit and colour. So I'll just pop those over there, and there's the ribbon, the gorgeous grape sheer ribbon, and I've got everything set up. Now I'm going to show you how, because I make a lot of cards, sometimes I make more than one of the same design, and in this case I've made quite a few of this design, and I'm just going to show you how handy the stamp apparatus is for exactly that. Now I've got it already set up because obviously I've made these cards before. It comes with these 2 plates and they just pop out. You can use both sides. As you can see, I've got one stamp set up on each side. And here are the stamps that we're going to use for the floral. Now I've already done most of it, but I am going to show you how to create quick cards if you want to make multiples. So all the bits and pieces are here. As I said, I've already started doing some, but I want to show you how to make multiples. So let's get the measurements out of the way. It's a standard card, and I have a piece of the designer series paper, and that is 14.3 by 10 centimeters. Now that's going on the front of our card. This is, of course, it's double-sided, this particular paper, but we're using the paler of the 2. We're also going to use a piece of Highland Heather. It is cut at the same size. Now I like to keep things consistent so that when you open the card, you will see that this piece is the same size as our designer series paper on the front. It's just a consistency thing, or as some people might say, you know, OCD. Here's the card base, and it's a half of an A4, and it's cut at 14.8 and a half. So 14.85 centimeters, and it's scored at 10.5. So that's just a standard card base. So the first thing you need to do is to temporarily adhere your designer series paper to the front of your card. Now you need to get it in exactly the right place where it's going to end up, because we're actually going to cut through both pieces with the die. So I've already done that just to save a bit of time. So you can tape it. I just taped it. I've got some removable tape that's quite easy to peel back up again. You could put washi tape on it. Our Tombow glue, if you put a little dot in each corner and then let that dry, it now becomes a temporary glue. So once you've let that dry, you can put it into position, press it down, and you will be able to remove that again once you're finished. So what I have done is let's just pretend I've done all of that. I have my piece of cardstock here. I've got some tape on it there. You can see some tape there and there. And then I've taped my die to the front. Now I'm going to run that through the Big Bertha. I can't I can't say, stamp and cut and emboss machine. It trips me up every time. So Big Bertha, because we need the big one because we're putting the whole card in, and we're putting it in like this. Okay, so we're going to cut it, and it does cut right through. Now I've done that just to save a bit of time, and this is how it comes out. If you can get the tape back off, very gently remove that. So we've got our pieces in the middle. Now if you're making multiples of this, you can use those to stamp, and I'm going to show you how in a sec. So we'll pop that over there. We've got our little die here. Now our card has this aperture through it, so we need to, the reason I temporarily taped it down is because all these little bits and pieces tend to want to, I mean, you don't know where you're going to glue that. If you glued that, you wouldn't know exactly where you want to glue it to. So it's a good idea to do it temporarily, and then we can correctly place some glue to ensure that all of those little bits and pieces are going to stay closed. Now, I'm going to show you how to do that right this second. Just taking the tape off it. So you want to get your glue. This is how I do things, okay? So I'm going to run the glue around the edge of this piece because it's actually smaller than the card front, but I'm going to run the glue around here so I know exactly where it is, okay? So I like to do that. I like to have a bit of control over where this glue's going, if you know what I mean. Now you don't need a lot. You don't want to put it too close to the edge because it's going to ooze out. So I'll try and get this a little bit closer. I think I can show you here. It's white and white, so you may not see it. So I'm just putting a little bit there, but then I'm just not squeezing, but putting the nozzle of the glue into the bits that stick in there. I don't want too much glue because we're going to end up closing the card. We're going to end up gluing it shut if we've got too much glue on there. So I'm really only going around the edge. And just be careful when you get to this bit because we've already got glue on the edge of the page, the paper, the designer series paper. So you can probably see the glue there. Now we need to just line them up. And it's easy because they're shaped. Now, if you're worried about that sticking to everything, we have our silicone mat, which is really, really great. It's like floppy silicone and nothing sticks to it. So you can pop that on there and then you've got the opportunity to move that around. And if glue does come out, it's going to come, oops, sorry, I think I bumped the camera then. It's going to come out onto the silicone mat and pretty much not stick down to your work surface. So I just use a bit of an old rag, a bit of an old t-shirt I find is best because it doesn't leave fluff. And there we have it. So if you were to just put some glue around there and glue that and then cut it, these pieces would be gaping open. Now I can see where my tape has left a bit of sticky residue, and indeed if you've got a bit of glue that has oozed out, you can use one of these. It's really great. It's called an adhesive eraser. Stampin' Up don't sell them anymore. You can get them at certain craft shops. You can get them online, but because Stampin' Up don't sell them, I can tell you that. So yeah, now I've got that off and we have our beautiful card opening. Now I'm going to show you how I've coloured that. Now I have actually pretty much done most of the colouring, but I just wanted to show you how I stamp multiples. So what I do is I place the die. No, I stamp it first. That's right. I stamp it first once. and once I have the paper and the stamp in place and I stamp it, I then go and cut that out. I really only need to position that die once because it can be a bit fiddly sometimes when you're trying to line them up. And if you've got lots to do, it can be a little bit tricky. So once I've done that, I can then go ahead and cut them out. Now, I don't have to be so precise because there's no stamped image on the back. So what I do is then I can just pop this down into that place, into the aperture itself, and then pop my little magnets on to hold them in place. If you're really worried about it, you can put some Tombow or some adhesive tape underneath to keep them in the right place. But generally speaking, they will just fit in like jigsaw puzzle pieces. Now, I've used the Memento Black, the Memento Tuxedo Black, and I'm not sure whether you can see this, but I'm just going to ink this up. And I've done it so that I can stamp both of them at the same time. Now, the stamps and the dies will fit onto 1/4 of a piece of A4. So you're going to get 4 cards per A4 sheet if you do it this way. So I'm happy that my pieces are in there, and I'm going to stamp down. Now, if they're not lined up, you can stamp them again with the Stamparatus. That's the good thing about it. Now, I could re-ink that if I wanted to. It's a pretty sketchy image, but I'm happy with that. So that's fine. So then I can just take these out, pop them over to dry, and then if I'm doing multiples of it, they're ready to go. I take the next set of die cuts that I have, pop them back in, and do it all over again. Stamps stays in exactly the same place. Our template is in exactly the same place because we've lined it up that way. Okay, so that's how we do that. Now, just give those a clean because I don't want them putting ink everywhere. And this is just the Simply Chamois, and yeah, it's just water, and it cleans them up beautifully. So I'm going to take that tray out, that plate out, because I've done my stamping on that bit now. So I'll pop this over here, and I'll show you how I coloured the images. Now, I have done one fully, and I just want to show you how I actually got that look. And I'm using the blender pens. As I said, I'm using the blender pens. This is what they look like. And they have twin tips on them. And they're like a brush. So they're very similar to our alcohol blend markers in that respect, that they have a brush. But these are, so if you're getting them in a packet of 3, so you're effectively getting six tips that you can use. So these are the colours that I chose, and these are from both sets of the watercolor pencils. And this is good if you're making multiples. Now, you could have these stamped and already cut out, have them up to this stage, and you can actually do this while you're watching TV. You can do it in 2 parts. You don't really need to concentrate on putting the colour down, only more so on using the blender pen, and I'm going to show you how I've done that. So I'll just finish the purple flower. As you can see, I haven't coloured the whole lot in. I've just put some colour down. So I'm going to go heavy with the purple because I want it to be quite a dark and bright colour. So it doesn't really matter. Like, I mean, as I said, I'm just basically scribbling. The green, I used 2 greens. Now on the tip there, you can see I've used the Granny Apple green. I'm going to use it on this tip here, this tip here. And then I went in with the Old Olive, which is a darker, more sort of like a olive, well, olive, it's right there in the name, isn't it? Old olive. And I'm just doing like round about the base of the leaf where it would be in shadow or it would be darker. I mean, you don't have to be Picasso. You don't really have to know a terrible lot about theory of art. Just enjoy colouring. So I'm just going to go in and do those. And as you can see, I could just repeatedly colour them into that stage. Get the next one. It's quick. It's easy. The next stage is blending that, and that's where these come in. Now, this is just our normal basic white cardstock. It's not watercolour paper. So you don't want to be scrubbing away at this, and I'll just show you how easy it is to use these blender pens. So usually on a scrap of paper, I just make sure I'm not getting any colour from that. And I'll show you how I did the leaves. Because I've put two different colours there, they will actually blend. And it's really that easy. I don't know what the actual liquid is inside these pens. I know it's not alcohol. I don't think it's alcohol. But I'll just show you a comparison there before I've put the blender pen onto it, and that's where I've put the blender pen on afterwards. So we'll get a bigger leaf to show you. So you can see that it just kind of melts. It melts the colour and it just moves it. And that's really all you need to do. So I'll just quickly finish this because it really is quick. And as I said, you don't need to be scrubbing away at it. It's just as soon as the liquid that's in the pen touches the colour, it actually starts to activate it. You remember those lovely mindful colouring books that we all had at a time there, and they were great. But what did you do with the pictures at the end of it? At least this way, you can get a card out of it. So call it mindful colouring if you like, and if that's what makes you happy. So there's all the green done. Now see, I'm just cleaning that pen off over here, and I'll go in and I'll do the purple because that's probably going to be the most dramatic transformation that you're going to see. So you just want to pull the colour out to the edge. And if you leave a bit of white, you know, that just sort of makes a highlight on the actual petal. Now there I'm just doing like strokes. But it's really relaxing. I find it anyway, that it's really relaxing. Especially in these times when, you know, you really want to be thinking about something other than COVID, the war in the Ukraine. I mean, those things can be quite depressing at times. I mean, that's what I find anyway. So I've cleaned all the purple off. Now you could have, like, you could use all different tips for each colour, but you really don't have to. So I'll do this yellow here. And if I wanted to leave it quite intense in the middle, I don't even really have to dip into that, if you know what I mean. I mean, I'm using the colour from the last petal. And the pink ones, I just basically went like that with the pencil. So that was quick. And I mean, the less pencil you put on, the paler it is. Now these two are like totally different. You can see how pale. These are the same colours And you can see how pale you can go if you really want that to be a nice pastel colouring effort. So there's that. Now the middle of the flowers I just coloured in with the early espresso. They've got the names on them. You can see the colour there on the end, like all good colour pencils. I can just leave it like that if I wanted to. I could make it paler by just putting a little bit on, or I can make it darker. And I can blend the two colours as well. So that's how I've done those two images. And they are going to go on our card. So I've cleaned that off. I'll move those pencils out of the way. And we can get to putting this card together now. So our card is glued. That's good. And our colouring is done. We're going to get the Stamparatus back out. And we're going to stamp the message. And the message on the inside. And as I said, I have already got these set up to show you when you're making multiples, you get a kind of like an assembly line thing happening, and it's much easier to cope with. Instead of lining everything up multiple times, you're just lining them up the once. So we're going to use this image on the inside here, and as I said, I've already positioned it down here. And the reason I've put it down there is, and it's a different sentiment to this card, is because it will be covered. It will be covered by the front of the card, and we're going to put that image on the inside of the card as well. So put my finger in the ink pad. That's brilliant. So I'm just going to stamp that down. With these really fine fonts, you don't really want to press too hard, or you lose that fine detail. I'll just give that another little ink up. Didn't look like it was inked up there. Beautiful. So that's done. Now, when you're using up your scraps, you might have these little thin bits of cardstock that you have left over from when you're cutting up your cards. Don't throw them out, because they're really handy, and I'm going to show you how I did that. So I've turned it over now. I've got my little stamp down here, and the reason I put it down there was because I did take this to class and we did multiple cards using the Stamparatus. So I had them all positioned in different places all over the plates and everything. But once you have this lined up, now I lined it up, I used the grid paper, and I lined it up between that line and that line, so that I would be able to just place my little piece, my little thin strip, which sometimes is really, really hard to get a straight message onto them. And I've just placed it using the grid paper as a guide. Now I've put one magnet there. I put one magnet there. I can ink up my sentiment. And it should be perfectly lined up. So there you go. Now I've basically made that a little bit longer than what we need, because we're going to cut that down. I'll just clean this one, and then the Stamparatus really is finished with. So if you were making these cards, you would do each step So if you had 6 of these to make, you would stamp this message 1, 2, 3, 4. It just makes it easier. Then you can clean your stamp up. You can pop it away, out of the way after that. So we've got our insert. We've got our pieces over here now. We've got our card base, and we're going to assemble. So when you are cutting an aperture card, I mean, it sounds obvious, but make sure your card is open. Otherwise, you're going to have a nice little shape on the back of the card as well that's been cut out. So we'll just fold that. And I think all of my bone folders are in my carry bag for the class that we had on Sunday. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to glue the insert. Now, sometimes that's kind of the last thing you do, but because it involves what we're putting on the front of the card as well, yeah, we want that in place before we do the next few steps. So pop that in the card. Now, it's the same border as the front of the card. So when you're happy with that, just check your border, make sure it's okay. And that's in there now. Okay, so we have this now. Now you can probably see that a little bit better. So we've got our coloured piece here, and we're basically going to glue that straight through that opening so that we know that we're going to get that in exactly the right place. So that's the trick of these cards. It's not really that hard, but yeah, that's the trick. So not too much glue, not a lot of glue. And then you just find a spot and line it up. See, I'm lining up these little leaves down the bottom here. I'm popping those in first. And it should just follow through the opening. Now, you will have to be very careful the first time because some bits may get caught. But once you've done that, you can go ahead and just make sure. And sometimes I like to do it from the back. So that's it. It's as easy as that. And it really does look effective. So now we're going to decorate the rest of the card. Now we've got some scraps, as I said, one of our basic white and one of our Highland Heather. And these are just offcuts. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to glue one to the other. How much of a border you leave is totally up to you. But I felt that it just finished it off. So again, bit of glue on the bottom of this one and a bit of glue on the top of that one, and when you put them together, there's my little silicone mat. When you put them together, both edges should be glued down. Okay, so it's best to line it up like that. Where's my little cloth? There we go. Now that can dry, that can sit over there and dry, and we're going to decorate the front of this. Now, I have put this on at an angle, and I haven't gone past the edge of the card, and I've made sure that the stalk is sort of sticking out at the bottom. And what we want to do is we want to glue this to that, but we don't want to get too much glue on it because we'll end up gluing it shut. So if we put too much glue on it, we'll end up gluing it shut. So again, we'll put a little bit on here, just a couple of little bits. Seriously, that's all you need. And then just a couple of little bits on this side. That's all there is. Okay, so now I can glue that on, and I know that both pieces, both edges, will be secure. So you can see it from the back. We have no glue. That's good because we don't want to glue the card shut. So that's in place now. Now we've got our little birthday message, and all I did was just cut that at an angle, and I'll do that. So whatever angle you cut it at, you might want to cut it at the same angle on the other side. Okay. At the end of the day, it doesn't have to be perfect. Even though it says have a perfect birthday, it doesn't have to be perfect, okay? And we're going to pop that up on dimensionals, but before we actually stick it down, we're going to pop a bit of ribbon in there. So I'm going to put one there, one on this end, and maybe a couple in the middle. One there, and oops, one there. Now the other thing you need to realise too is that you don't want the dimensionals to be showing on the other side, because they will also glue the card shut. So you have to be very aware of that when you're doing it. Now I got a piece of ribbon, and as I said, this is the gorgeous grape, and I think I'm just going to pop it like that and have it sticking out like this a bit with this one, just to give it a bit of added interest. So we don't want that too far up, so we want it about there. And what we can do is we can pop another dimensional in the middle, now that I know where the ribbon is going to go. Sorry, I think it was off camera then. And you can either use a glue dot and put your ribbon down like that, or just stick it straight to that. So I'm going to take all of these off. And as per usual, I've lost my take your pick tool. It's here somewhere. If you could see this room at the moment, guys, Don, my husband, has kindly offered to put shelving inside the built-in wardrobe, but he only started yesterday. So we want that about there. So I've got tools and stuff everywhere. Yeah, till he gets it done. So we want to fold this ribbon. We want it to look a bit nice. So we fold it a bit loopy, like that. Stick it to the dimensionals. And then we can pop it on. Just be aware where your dimensionals are, because you don't want that. Might put that at a bit of a different angle, actually. Put it like that, I think. Yeah, so you don't want your dimensionals to show through the back, so we want to put it across like that. No dimensionals poking through. Our ribbon looks lovely. And we'll just trim it up a bit. And the last thing we need to do is to put those iridescent jewels on there, those iridescent rhinestone jewels, if I can find them. They were here a minute ago. Oh, as I said, I feel like I'm trying to work in a construction site. I don't know where oh, there they are. Good grief, they were right there. Okay, so we've got our beautiful aperture. We've got our lovely piece on the front to add a bit of interest, so that when the card is open, we've also got a bit of interest on the front. Now you can put these iridescent rhinestones wherever you like. I chose to actually put one. Oh, look, I missed that bit there. I actually chose to put them one on the inside, one on this one. It peeps through, but it's also showing on the inside of the card. And as I said, I don't know where my take your pick tool is, so I'm going to have to use my craft knife, which is what we used to have to do before we actually had a take your pick tool. So I might put this big one, I might put it there, just so that it catches the light. Put a medium one over here, and a small one, I think, just popping out of the bottom of the, yeah, just out of the bottom there. So the idea is to make a triangle odd numbers. 3 is great, triangle is great, because as they glitter, your eye travels around the actual card itself. So yeah, not so daunting once you know how to make these sorts of cards. Now, that doesn't have to be that flower shape. It can be a circle, a very basic geometric shape like a square, and then you put your aperture with your stamped image on the same shape, but have it in the same spot as we did, glue it through the actual aperture so that it is in the correct spot, so that when the card is closed, it's part of the front of the card, but when the card is open, it's definitely a feature point on the inside of the card. Okay, I hope you've enjoyed that. I hope I've taken out some of the mystery of how these really complicated looking cards do. Obviously, because I've done all the pre-cutting and most of the colouring, etc., it didn't seem to take very long. So once you've got all that sort of the basics done, putting the card together is a real breeze. So if you do make a lot of them, and you do them with the assembly line process, putting them together is really quite quickly. So I hope you enjoyed that, and don't forget, if you need to go onto my store, if you want to order anything, everything is in stock except this paper, but I can recommend the hand-penned designer series paper if you want to go with that same color scheme. But if you were lucky enough to order and get that free paper, oh, it comes in so many different colors. It was beautiful paper, and yeah, I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of use out of it in future. So yeah, give that a go. See how you go with it. If you've got any problems, any issues, you know, you can always shoot me a message through Facebook. My email address is on my Facebook page, and my online store. My online store will actually take you to my Facebook page and all of that, YouTube and all the rest of it. So I'm very contactable. So if you need to know anything, do please contact me, and I'll do my best to help you. Okay, anyway, thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. I know that everybody's time is a bit short. That's why I always try to do as much as I can beforehand. And I will see you on the next video. Bye. Take care.